So today we're going to start our linear equations talking about slope and rate of change. So we've been learning how to graph linear equations. Now we're going to learn how to solve for slope. So y'all know the formula y equals mx plus b, yes? The m is the slope. And so that's the only piece that we're looking at today is that slope. Does everybody understand? All right. So at the top of your page, I want you to draw a positive slope. A positive slope goes up from left to right. I don't see everybody doing it. So you're always looking at it from left to right. So it's going up, it's positive. If it's going down, it's what? It's negative. If it's flat, think about Slope Dude. He's skiing and he says, this is 0 fun. That is a 0 slope. We shouldn't be on our watches. If it's straight up and down, he yells the worst curse word in math and algebra. Undefined. Do y'all know why that's the worst word in math and algebra? Because there's no answer, but there's a reason. So y'all know that slope is rise over run. Yes, y'all learned that in 7th grade. When it's undefined, the bottom number, the run, is 0. So everybody look, if I do rise, I would rise up from here to here, say it's 2. If I ran, how far am I going to go? 0. Can you ever have 0 as a denominator? No. And so that's why it's undefined. Okay? All right, so slope. Today we're going to learn the slope formula. The slope formula, you all know, is rise over run. That's what you learned in 7th grade, yes? All right, so let's talk about what the rise really is. So if I have a graph, y'all don't need to draw this, I'm just going to show you. If I have a graph and there's a line on here, the rise, so say here's a dot and here's a dot. This is, give me a pen, there we go. This right here from dot to dot would be the rise. Do y'all agree? We're moving up the y-axis. So let's say it looks like this. So you would go 1, 2, 3. Say I drew that good. Pretend I did, okay? The rise is the change in y's. Because when I go up, isn't that the change in y? Like how far is the y changing? All right, let's look at the run. The run is the change in what? It's going to be the change. Pretend that went straight over. So like let's say I counted that. That's your change in x because this x is at 0 and this x is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So from 0 to 5, the change is 5. Does that make sense? So the run is the change in x's. Does this make sense to y'all? Okay, so what I'm going to teach you today is called the slope formula. Rise over run will only work if you have a graph, a picture of a graph. But what if I only give you 2 coordinates? Then you can't rise and run because you don't have a picture. Does this make sense? So what you need is the slope formula, the change in y's over the change in x's. So the slope formula goes like this. It says take your y's and find the difference. What does it mean to find the difference? Subtract. So you're going to take your second y, which we're going to call y2, and you're going to subtract the first y, which we call y1. That is the change in y. That is the what? The rise. Y'all see what I'm saying? Now we're going to do the run, the change in x's. So what do you think the formula is going to be down here? x2 minus x1. It is a super easy formula. A lot of times you can do it in your head, but when there's negatives involved, I do not suggest doing it in your head because you make little mistakes. Okay? All right, so everybody knows that M stands for what in the slope-intercept formula? slope. So today we're solving for slope. All right. To use the slope formula, until you get good at it, you need to label your coordinates. So this is your first coordinate. The first number in the coordinate is always the, and the second is always the. So I'm going to call this, since it's first, these are my first ones, my ones. Does this make sense to y'all? All right, since these are second, then I'll call them my 2's. So this is an x, so it's going to be x2, and this is a y, it's going to be y2. The formula says, find the difference in the y's, and that's your rise. Okay, so that's going to go on top. So I'm going to do y2. What's y2? And I'm going to subtract y1. Y'all agree it's 2. Where did this minus come from? From the formula. All right, now for the bottom part of the formula, so there's a fraction line right here. Now I'm going to do x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 5. Now you could solve these separately. You could do -1 minus 2, put the answer, 4 minus 5, put the answer, and then simplify it. Or you can let your calculator do it for you all in one step. So get your calculator. A lot of times it's easy just to do it in your head, but if you think it needs to be simplified, it's easier just to stick it in your calculator. Quickly, here we go. So to put it in your calculator all at once, use your fraction option. So alpha y equals option 1. You'll put the top in the top, so put in -1 minus 2. Now go to the bottom and put in 4 minus 5. It will simplify it for you all in one step. What is the slope?
3.
So what would the run be? Say it loud.
1.
So if the rise is 3, the run is 1. I just don't write it because this is what is simplified. But this does simplify to 3 over run. 1. That's my rise. That's my run. But if I asked for the slope, I would simply put what? 3. What do y'all think?
I'm kind of confused on how you got the n equals 1.
So this is this formula right here. Okay, so m means slope. To find slope, this is the change in y over the change in x. So I did this formula. So this is y2. See how y2 is -1? Yes? Then I did minus, and I did y1, which is 2. Then down here I did x2, which is 4, minus x1, which was 5. That's where I got that. And I just threw it in my calculator, and it gave me 3. If I didn't want to throw it in my calculator, I would solve this, and -1 minus 2 is -3. Yes? 4 minus 5 is -1, and -3 divided by -1 is +3. But I just let my calculator do it. All right, y'all want to try to set this one up on your own? So you're going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. You are going to use this to figure out what to put on the top and the bottom. See if you can set it up. Everybody write it down.
Will you put 4 minus -2?
For the bottom. Mm-hmm. You don't have to put it in your calculator yet. I just want you to write it out. Let's see if y'all got it. Can I go ahead and do it, or y'all want some more time? Okay, so on the top, I'm doing the top part of the formula, y2 minus y1. y2 is 6 minus y1 is 3. Now the bottom part, I'm going to do, y'all get that the minus sign comes from this formula, yes? So I go ahead and put the minus sign there so y'all don't get confused. I'm going to do x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is -2. A lot of students will forget to put this subtraction sign because they go, oh, 4 minus 2. And that's wrong. It's 4 minus whatever x1 is, which is negative 2. All right, if I don't want to use my calculator, what's 6 minus 3?
3.
What's 4 minus negative 2? You would change, yes? You would get 6, which simplifies to 1/2. But if I wanted to put it in my calculator, I would have just gone like this. Oops. Alpha y equals 6 minus 3 over 4 minus negative 2, and I would have gotten 1/2. So it kind of skips this part for me. It does it all in one step. This is the slope. My rise is 1. My run is what? 2. Are we okay?
Yeah, that's the wrong number.
Okay, you got it though? All right, moving on to this one. Does it matter that there's fractions? Your calculator will put in a fraction within a fraction, so I'll show you all that. All right, so everybody look, what is this? X1. What is this? Y1. This is X2. This is Y2. All right, let's look at the formula. The top is the change in y's. There will always be a subtraction sign right there. So I'm going to put y2 here, which is negative 3, and y1 here, which is 5. Under the bottom, I'm going to put a subtraction sign. I'm going to do the change in x's. So I'm going to do x2, which is 1/2, minus x1, which is 9/2. You can go do this separately if you want and then simplify it, or you can use alpha y equals. So I'm going to show y'all. If I go to alpha y equals and I put in negative 3 minus 5 on top, can y'all see? On the bottom, I could change those to decimals, or I could go put in alpha y equals again and do 1/2, tab out, minus 9/2. Like my calculator will do that for me. Enter. Done. The answer is 2. What's the rise?
1.
Ooh, what's the rise? 2. What's the run? 1. Very good. Try the next one on your own. Okay. Did everybody get it? Check to see if you set it up correctly. On the top, we have negative 4 minus 6. On the bottom, we have 5 minus 0. So I go to alpha y equals negative 4 minus 6 over 5 minus 0, and I get negative 2. What's the rise? What's the run? Very good. Everybody good? Okay, flip to the back. Huh? Yeah, slope is easy. All right, now we're going to look at slope on a graph. They gave us, guys, please pay attention. They gave us 2 points. They want you to graph them and then find the slope. Could I just use slope formula? Yes, but they want me to graph them. So here we go. Negative 2, positive 4. And then 4, 4. If you don't have a straight edge, just do your best right now. kind of slope is this? What would slope dude say? This is a zero slope. And I'm going to show you why by doing rise over run or by doing slope formula. All right, let's do slope formula since that's what we're learning. So this is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2, yes? If I did slope formula, I would do y2, which is what?
4.
Boys, please sit up and pay attention. 4 minus, what's y1?
4.
Over x2 minus x1. All right, if I solved this, what's 4 minus 4?
0.
All right, what's 4 minus negative 2? 6. What is 0 divided by 6?
0.
So it's just a zero slope. If I try to rise, my rise is 0. My run was, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do y'all see this? Okay, let's try the next one.
Can you just look at like the y's and the terms?
Could you look at the fact that the y's were both 4 and no? You should be able to, but a lot of people can't. So a lot of times you just kind of need to sketch it out on a graph, okay? All right, let's look at this one. Let's go graph it. 3, 5, and 3, 1.
And this one's undefined.
What would slope dude say? He would say undefined because he fell off the mountain. Worst curse word in math and algebra. Let's look at why it's the worst curse word in math and algebra by using slope formula. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. All right. y2
1.
minus y1
5.
over x2
3.
minus x1.
3.
All right. What's 1 minus 5?
4.
Negative 4. What's 3 minus 3? Can you ever have 0 as a denominator? If I put this in my calculator, I'm going to show y'all what it gives me. 1 minus 5 over 3 minus 3, it gives me an error, and it says, you cannot divide by 0. You cannot put your answer as error. Did y'all hear me? Every year I have a student that puts error. That is not a slope. This answer is straight undefined. Make sense? Do not put that it's no solution. There is a solution. It's undefined. Does everybody understand? All right, moving on. Do we need to do more of these or y'all got that? Okay, skip to this page on this one. Now we're going to find the slope of a graph without giving us ordered pairs. Boys. To find the slope of a graph, you could write coordinates down and use the slope formula, or you could just use rise over run. To use rise over run, you need 2 perfect dots. They already gave them to you. You always start, in my opinion, you always start at the bottom dot and rise up. Is up positive or negative? So my rise is positive. I went up 1, 2, 3 squares. Now you're going to run from here to this dot. Is right positive or negative? So I ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. I have a positive rise and a positive run, and if I think of slope dude would also say puff, puff, positive. Then I would simplify this if it can be simplified, which it cannot. So that's my slope. Are we good? All right, let's look at the next one. Find the slope. Find your 2 dots. I always like to start with the bottom dot, but that's just me. I don't see everybody participating. I'm going to rise up and count my rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my rise is up, positive, or negative? So my rise was positive 5. Now let's look at the run. Which way am I going? So is left positive or negative? All right, so my run is 1, 2, 3, 4.
So it would be fine if you started with the top.
If I started here, my rise would still be this because I'm still going up or down. This would now be negative 5, yes, but this would now be positive. Is that still the same answer? Yes. I just like to always start at the bottom dot because a lot of students, if they don't, they'll draw this first and think it's their rise, and I don't want them to do that. Rise always is up and down. Okay? But yes, these are the same answers because if you put it in your calculator, it's going to go like this. So it doesn't matter which number gets the negative as long as there's only one negative sign. Would slope dude also say nice negative? Yes. All right. Flip to the back. All right, for this one, it wants you to find a coordinate given the slope. So I want y'all to think about this. To find the slope, didn't we use slope formula? So could I make an equation using the slope formula is going to equal 3 over 2? All right, so let's do that. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. All right, so let me show y'all why I'm doing this. I know that if I set this up, then y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is going to give me what? It has to give me 3 over 2 because they're telling me the slope is 3/2. Do y'all understand what I did right here? Okay, so now all I'm going to do is plug these numbers in and say it has to be 3 over 2. So here we go. y2, 9, minus y1 over x2. Do I know it? So what do I put? Minus x1, 2 equals 3/2. Who can tell me how to solve this? We learned this in our equation unit. What did we have to do? What's that called? It starts with a C. They're called cross products. It's cross multiplication. So I would do the distributive property. So I would say 3 times this whole thing. So I got to put it in parentheses. 3 times x minus 2 is equal to, what's 9 minus 3? What's 9 minus 3? What's 6 times 2? There's my equation. You can either solve this by hand, or can you solve it in your calculator? Do y'all remember how to solve equations in your calculator? What button does it? Y equals. All right, I'm going to solve it by hand. So I do distributive property. 3x plus negative 6 equals 12. How do I get rid of the minus 6? So I have 3x equals 18. Divide by 3. And x is equal to 6. So this value right here has to be a 6 if the slope is 3/2. So x was equal to 6. For those of you who forgot how to solve equation in your calculator, I'll very briefly go over it with you. You go to y equals. For the left side, you put in y1. So I would put in 3 open parentheses x minus 2 because that's what was there before I keep change. Yes? And on the right side, I would put for y2. I would hit second trace, option 5, wait for it to graph, and then what? Enter, 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 and the answer was 6. All right, here we go. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. All right, here we go. 1 minus y1. What's y1? Over x2 minus x1 equals, what does it have to equal? Where do I give the negative sign to? It doesn't matter, but you have to pick one. Where do y'all want it to go, with the 8 or the 1? With the 8. I heard that first. If you put it with the 1, you will get the same answer. You just have to pick one. Are we okay? All right, so I'm going to do 1 times 1 minus y. Do I even need to do anything with 1 times something? No, but if you want, here you go. 1 times 1 minus y is equal to, what's negative 2 minus 0? Negative 2. What's negative 2 times negative 8? Okay. So if I do distributive property, isn't that still just 1 minus y? Okay. How do I get rid of the 1? Subtract 1. So I have negative y equals 15. Can I have a negative y?
No.
So the negative would move to the other side because I would have to divide by negative 1. And y is equal to positive 15. Are we easy? Everybody's good?
Oh, okay. You said y equals negative 15.
I meant to say, it is negative. I forgot my negative sign. Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, the next part, ask for the rate of change. Rate of change is slope. Did everybody hear me? Rate of change is what?
Slope.
So could I use slope formula? A lot of these you can do in your head. The rise is the change in y. So look right here. I'm going to show you how to set it up by hand, but I'm going to show you in the head. What's 14 minus 7?
7.
So my rise is 7. Are y'all with me? What's 4 minus 2? My run is? So 7 divided by 2 would give me my answer. 3.5. But let's do it by hand so we can have some notes. This is my first x. This is my first y. This is my second x. This is my second y. So I would do y2, which is 14, minus y1, which is 7, over, what did I just do? Y'all had, I set that up so wrong. These are all x's. Thank you. These are all x's, these are all y's. I did not mean to confuse y'all. Are y'all okay with that? Okay. So I have 14 minus 7 over x2, 4 minus x1, which is 2. 14 minus 7 is 7, and 4 minus 2 is 2. And 7 divided by 2 is? Why would I put this as a decimal, but the rest of them I left as fractions? Because rate of change, it was talking about the cost per. So for 1 hour, it's going to cost $3.50. I wouldn't say that as 7/2 when I'm talking about cost per hour. That's why I would change that to a decimal. All right, how would I do this one? And please don't let me mess this up. All of these are x's. This is x1, x2. All of these are? So this is y1, y2. So I'm looking at the distance per time, per minute. Okay? So y1, y2, which is 3, minus y1. How would you set up the bottom?
60 minus 30.
60 minus 30. So you can go put it in your calculator. You can do it. Let's put it in our calculator. Alpha y equals 3 minus 1.5 over 60 minus 30 is. So I'm only going 0.05 miles in 1 minute because I'm slow. Miles per minute. So when you talk about slope, you usually give your answer as a fraction of rise over run. When you talk about rate of change, you usually give your answer as a decimal, because you're usually talking about like cost per minute, cost per hour, something like that. Okay, let me give you all your assignment. Okay, so for the first part, it's super easy. It just says plot the points, draw a line through them without calculating, state if the slope is positive, negative, 0, or undefined. So I plot this point. Here's 1, negative 4. Here's 5, negative 8. It wants me to draw a line through them, so please make it a straight line. And without calculating, no, don't do rise over run, don't do anything. Is that positive, negative, 0, or undefined? Negative. So right, where do y'all want to write it? Like out to the left? Or like right above it, maybe? Right here? We'll put it's negative. So that's all you're going to do on 1 through 9. Now look at 10 through 12. Find the, so we're on this one, would I use slope formula or rise over run? Some of them aren't counting by, no, they're all counting by ones, aren't they? 1, 1. Yeah, I'd use rise over run. And on number 12, this is your line right here. So do you even need to do rise over run? Or do you know the answer?
0.
Yeah, you don't got to do rise over run. You know the answer. But these you've got to do rise over run. Do you have to simplify your answer? Please put that. Simplify. If you can. Don't forget the negative sign on number 11, because this is a negative slope. Okay, turn to the back. Same with 13 through 15. On number 15, this is the one you're finding the slope of. Are you going to need to calculate that, or do you know the answer? Yeah. Which one do I need to put a negative sign when I do rise over run? Excuse me? 13 is negative, right? So when I do rise over run, don't forget my negative sign. On 16 through 21, you are going to use the slope formula. Write it down. You're going to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Are we okay? And then on 22 through 25, you are going to set it up how we did those last ones on the notes. So I'll help y'all set one up. It's going to be those cross product equations. Okay? So look, this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So I would do y2, negative 2, minus y1, which is y, over x2, which is negative 9, minus x1, which is negative 3, equals, what's my slope? 1 over 1. So when I cross multiply, do I even need to do anything? No, because 1 times anything is that. All right, and then number 26, you're going to give a verbal description. What they want you to do is explain the slope. So from 0 to 12 minutes, what's happening? The heart rate is, it's rising, it's increasing. It has a positive, it's increasing it. And then all of a sudden at the 12th minute, the heart rate starts to slowly drop. Then when I got to 24 minutes, my heart rate starts more rapidly. I just gave you all the answer. That's a verbal description of this graph. All right? Get busy.